But yeah, I was reading the chapter on Rwanda that you wrote. First, what got you interested in writing this paper?
Yeah, I studied abroad in Uganda,
Mm-hmm.
and while I was there, the director of the program, Dan Lamonia, amazing man, he brought us, there were 17 of us, all mostly from the US. He brought us to Rwanda for a week. And as one does, beautiful country, really, really stunningly beautiful. And then while we were on this trip, we visited a preserved church. So there were a few churches where massacres had happened that had been sort of left as a marker so that people could come visit and see what had happened.
Mm.
And we went to this church, we're sort of wandering around, and they needed a French translator. So I spoke French. I'd lived in France for a year. And so I was translating, and I'd never really translated before. I spoke French and I spoke English, so it should be fine. But I was translating for this woman who was kind of the host of this church. And I didn't know how to translate. So I was trying to figure out, as I was translating, I was trying to figure out, when somebody says, I saw this, do I say, she saw this? Or do I say, I saw this, in her words? So as I'm trying to figure this out, it became clear that she was the host of this church because she had lost her whole family at the church. This is terrible that I can't remember the number, but I think she had 12 children who were all killed in the church during the genocide. And there was a man who had been sort of standing in the trees, sort of as we were watching, and he had also lost all of his family members, his wife and all of their kids. And this was, this really speaks to how privileged my life had been, or has been. And this was the hardest thing I've ever done, was telling somebody else's story. And I was just so moved by it. And so, it kind of just got deep inside of me, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for years. And so then I think that's a big part of why after graduation, I moved to Kenya. I just sort of I kept trying to get jobs in Uganda and Rwanda, but there weren't as many jobs in Uganda and Rwanda. So I got this one job in Kenya that was right on the border with Uganda. So it was as close as I could be.
Nice.
But this stuff was just stuck in my head. And I think one of the things that was really striking about the genocide to me was the number of people who participated. So the number of people who killed is what often gets talked about. There's a lot of debate about exactly what that number is, but it's clearly a very, very high number. But it was hard to stop thinking about how many people had participated, and to think about how that decision works, and how so many people could be in a position to think that this is the thing to do, just really struck me. And so I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I actually started thinking about conflict between traditionally herding groups and traditionally farming groups all over the place, all over the world. I spent a summer in Burkina Faso trying to get data on conflict and prices of the herding products and prices of the farming products. And then, unfortunately for that research project, but very fortunately for Burkina, it's an incredibly peaceful country, and there's effectively no conflict, so there was no research study to be done there. Yeah. But then while I was doing that, I heard about some data that was available in Rwanda, and decided that I could try to study the thing that had been interesting to me from the beginning, and try to sort of look into what was going on there. And it was the first big project that I did in graduate school, so I had a lot of time, and so I could kind of read everything that had been written about it, but it's impossible to get there because so much has been written about the genocide, but read a lot that has been written, and it still sort of continues to be a fascination.
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to make sense of what had happened. And it's impossible to really make sense of it, but it was interesting to spend some time trying.
Yeah.
Thinking about